Welcome again, everybody, and thank you very much for joining us for today's webinar session. In today's session, we're going to be covering off or adding to the emergency management space, and we're going to be talking about building emergency and evacuation management solutions. Today, I'm going to be joined by Daniel Talbot and Sean Guinea, two significantly experienced individuals who have been working from the corporate side. Whilst both men have significant experience with the practical management, planning and development of emergency solutions, they've combined their collective wisdom along with a couple of other experts in their field to create a solution that fills all of the gaps that they themselves experience problems with or deficiencies in their corporate lives. So we'll be talking about this particular tool, and we'll also be talking about tips, advice and recommendations on how to manage, coordinate building emergency scenarios and certainly evacuations. And you'll see throughout the course of today significant insight on both the expertise, and we'll be talking in more detail about a brilliant tool that canvasses all available application, addresses occupational health and safety, and saves organisations time, money and effort in the emergency management of their facilities and certainly their people.
This was built around the high-rise environment. I was with the banking sector for 8 years or so. So money and time and critical teams and the like, business continuity are very key areas for us in the bank. So yeah, it was sort of built around that. And the other side of the coin is also the harmonisation of OH&S laws, because discussions we've had recently with companies like Caltex, they're all sort of bolstering their procedures and all of their systems around these changes. So this sort of fits in nicely with that. And if we go to the next slide, we can look at the current problems. And I think we discussed this on the phone. It doesn't matter what business you go to, people don't know who the wardens are. And they've got paper lists to mark off names and all that sort of thing. And you likened it to trying to herd cats, which I've used myself. I think that's a fantastic one.
Yes, it's a common occurrence, unfortunately.
Yeah, so look, I was part of exercises on a national level with the Commonwealth Bank. So we sometimes had 3,000 people spilling out of a building and, you know, the usual stuff, running in all directions, not coming back to work. And it did cost us a lot of money. So this was sort of built around that, and also a space management tool that we built for the bank. And another thing that we noticed was people just did not know where to evacuate to. And if that was deemed unsafe by emergency services or police or whatever the case may be, how would people actually know? And the one on the back of that is, how would you know when to come back to the building? Well, they implemented two-way radios. It was just one-dimensional traffic with mobile phones and so forth. So we put this in play, and very soon you'll see a live working demo. So the basic key areas we wanted to address was identifying where the wardens were on the floor, and we can do that via the IAP login. What the floor plans look like, so that ticks all the induction boxes. So the model we had at CommBank was you come in, get your security card, and we do a full induction on site, which really satisfied our HR requirements. The second iPhone you see, this screenshot there, is the list of employees, and we'll show you the demo in a minute, and live evacuation safe zone area. So that actually is a digital map that changes like a Google map. And the fourth one there is a complete management reporting suite. So for the first time, you can really get measurable data for KPIs, and it was really aimed at the senior management, because the CEO knocked on my door one day and said, look, I wouldn't have a clue what's happening in the event of an emergency. I want you to fix it, Daniel. So those were sort of the key drivers. And the screen you saw before with people going in all directions, this allows people to stick together in groups, allocated groups, and go to the designated safe zone.
And the safe zone can also move, because, you know, as Dan mentioned earlier, you may actually evacuate into another danger zone. So, especially, I suppose, in the situation, you may not be out of the danger zone in that evacuation zone. So you need to be able to change that. Things move fluidly, so you need to be able to adapt and alert everybody pretty quickly.
Yes. And as you can see on this slide here, Tony, the control centre can look at, monitoring thousands of people in real time versus who actually drives that. Now, that can be done from a security control centre or also the disaster recovery site itself. So there's a few different options there, and that's something we'd like your input on and feedback if possible.
Yeah.
Do you have any questions on any of that?
Now, it's not limited to the particular type of handset. It can be used on other than just the iPhone?
Any smartphone.
Okay.
So if it's a HTC or Android or whatever, it's because it's actually accessing a website. It doesn't actually. You could use a laptop computer, but we find that the smart devices are the easiest to use and the most portable.
Yes.
Okay, so it's just a mobile enabled website then.
Yes.
Essentially,
Okay.
yes.
All right. So because obviously,
Tony is. Go ahead, sir.
yeah, because obviously one of the corporate conundrums with iPhones and those sorts of things is sometimes the installation of applications is limited. So obviously this negates the necessity for applications, updates. It's just real time, straight off the web.
And that's where we've sat back and thought of, we've played the devil's advocate, we've also used our expertise in our different spheres to tick all the boxes of all the scenarios. And what you've said there is exactly one of the scenarios we looked at.
And the hierarchy of control around password protection has all been built in as well. So, it's got that security around the system as well.
Okay.
So let's have a look at the demo. If you've got that on your iPad, we'll sort of...
If you're on the B-Link site, you see the logo, there's 5 addresses. If we go to 255 Boyd Street.
Yep.
Okay, so, and then we go into the CBA.
Yep.
And floor 7. So that's the only floor they've got. Now we've got 8, 10 people. Now, if you want to click on Martha, the first one, as being out.
Yep.
She will now go to red.
Okay.
Because the idea of that is that indicates directly that there's someone that have been accounted for in the last couple of minutes. So from a fire warden's point of view, they can sit there and not have to remember everybody that they've just accounted for. That they know who are the last people to be accounted for. Also, if someone in evacuation point 1 has logged off Martha, but she should normally go to number 2 evacuation point, it will tell the other fire wardens, because it automatically refreshes. Now it's done that right now. It's told me that Martha has now gone red and is ticked, so I can see that she's accounted for, even though she's been accounted for on a completely different evacuation zone.
Okay.
Now I'm going to press on my iPad League 1, which is the very bottom one, and you'll see if you press refresh.
No, it takes 60 seconds to refresh. We've put it at 60 seconds at the moment, but that's very tailorable. We may bring that right down in the evacuation mode.
Yep.
But the theory behind that is that we need to be able to push the information out to all the wardens to let them know who has been accounted for. And part of the audit report will then indicate the time that they were accounted for, the zone that they went to, and it also lets everybody else know. And you've just said that Lee's now gone red?
Yep, seen?
Yep, yeah. So that way the evacuation can operate on a global basis, but it can the local operator does the inputs, but it lets everybody else know. And if you take a step back, as I think Dan mentioned, like the control room scenario, they get these feeds as well. So because they're all just logging into a website, it's not as if you're going to have corruption of data or anything like that. Yeah. It allows for that true chain of command. The new screen that you've got is the actual front end that the end users will have, and if you see there's icons down the bottom that they can click, whether they want the map or the staff list or the evacuation plan. So I'm sure you're very well aware that there's a small forest in a couple of binders that is the disaster plan that's sitting in an office somewhere, but no one ever can remember, well, A, the last time it was dusted off and read, and B, the last time anybody or knows where to find it. So we thought to put the bullet points of the plan on the phone so that the operators or the wardens can have their warden instructions there, and they can then tick them off as they've done them. So once again, the auditing and due diligence reports are there. And that can be from a good thing of protecting everybody's butt, or also finding out if there's shortcomings in the training. People just aren't getting it.
Okay.
So I think one of the key drivers for us, Tony, is to make it as user-friendly as possible. Well, when you're dealing with large numbers of people and, from management right down to employees, it's important that you have the one localised system that sits nice and neatly on any device, as you mentioned before, and it just gives you all that information, and then the reporting on the back of that, which Sean will show you in a moment. So how's that look for you, Tony? That's
Yeah, as you said, there's a distinct separation between the plans, which are often more aptly called an archive because they're big, voluminous, and stored somewhere. So no, it certainly brings out the living immediacy of what people need to do, where they need to go, and all of that accountability, which, let's face it, if they've evacuated the building, that's probably where their plan is as well.
Exactly right, exactly. Yep. And a lot of people say, oh, look, we've got a communication system to let people know. Where's that? Oh, it's back in the building. Where's your disaster plan? Where's this? It's all back in the building. So there's a big difference, and I'm sure you're well aware of this, is that there's a big difference in doing what's required under the BCA for requirements for getting people out of the building. But from an OH&S point of view, once you get out of the building, the workplace is now moved. The workplace is now the street, or